Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of the Endgame. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, I love the parallels of, obviously, Elena. Constantly throughout the show is the parallels between what's happening in the episode and the parallels of the stories that Elena was telling, whether it be to Val, or in this case, the one she was telling to her daughter. So I was wondering how that was all going to work out. And it's like, oh, she had a tracker on herself the entire time. Once again, shows you how thoroughly they planned this all stuff out. But I think this episode was also a really good metric for no matter how well thought out something is, nothing's 100% foolproof. You cannot account for every single possibility, every turn of events. Like, there are going to be blind sides that you will get blindsided by, so. But luckily, Snow White ended up rescuing Elena. I guess we're not going to get any more of Louis and his fiance. I guess they're just, like, locked up behind bars, so. Because, like, they were her, like, top lieutenants we got to know, like, spend more time with. So I'm wondering if that's not going to be the case anymore. Will we would even see any more of them in the future or not? Would she, like, go through the trouble of busting them out or getting them to help? Getting help from them. I doubt, like, the FBI or whatever would kind of allow that, so we probably wouldn't in the future see any more of them. But regardless, we see Owen and Sergei's plan get put in action, and the moment we saw Sergei picking up a gun, I was like, yeah, that seems like that was probably, like, because it seemed like Owen didn't have one. I was like, it's so and Sergei made sure not to show Owen, and later on when they're hijacking the truck, he never actually used the gun even though he had it. So I guess maybe that's also extra reason why they need. I mean, pumping iron, obviously, it's like, you know, what you're going to do in jail anyway. But I guess it was like, now we also need to flex our muscles. We need to make sure we're in the best shape possible. Because, yeah, we'll be hooked up to these things, but it'll make sure that even if we fall, we won't get completely left behind. But we need to make sure we have, like, you know, not just a harness to connect us, but also that we're, like, holding on for dear life to stay hidden. Because if they got found underneath those trucks, obviously everything would blow up in their faces. So obviously, you have your boy Doak doing everything wrong. Like, that's the fact. Like, that's the interesting thing. Like, Doak made that whole point a couple episodes back about, like, when he confessed to Director L. He was saying, like, right, I did something bad, but I always wanted to be perfect. I wanted to be on the up and up. But at the end of the day, and it's something Rogelio says to him later on, it's like, you let your ambition get the best of you, and it's twisted these notions you had about, like, no, I can do good. Because I think he let a lot of what the President Wright said get to him. Like, right, we might have to do some stuff here and there, but it's for the greater good. Like, and just the fact is that he was so okay with it when it was like, yeah, there's some evidence that was doctored by Elena. It's like, Doak, what are you doing? First and foremost, you know it's not BS, because all the people you've taken down so far have not been good people. Elena, regardless of her being the criminal that she is, which that is an important thing to remember, she is a criminal. That's why I felt like there had to be more to it. It's like, you can't say you 100% have the most. I guess I still kind of gave her the benefit of the doubt of having the most altruistic intentions. But it's like, right, I forgot the wise words of Raymond Reddington. Like, oh, I'm here to help. But like, oh, should I believe you? Oh, God, no. I'm a criminal. Like, it's like with Elena, you know, and that's what Val kind of beats herself up about. It's like, I let you sweet talk me all your lies about friendship and working together and taking down corruption, when your end result was not only to expose all the people, but because it's a combination of, let's get paid. First and foremost, I'm going to get revenge, but also at the same time, I'm going to get paid at the same time. So I just think that's fascinating. But circling back to Doak, it's like, he tells you, like, oh, this video, they got me as doctor. Like, why would you believe that? It's, you know it's BS, but you want it to believe it. It's hard to say, like, whether you're trying, because you're not 100% the Boy Scout. You try to pretend to be the Boy Scout. If anyone's, like, the Boy Scout of the team, it's going to be, well, Girl Scout would be in Val's case, but also, like, you know, Val and Anthony are, like, the Girl Scout and Boy Scout of, like, oh, we're very, like, about doing things the right way. Even Doak pretends to be that, you know, and maybe at one point in time he was, but definitely over the course of this series, he's definitely shifted, because he's gotten so caught up in, like, right, the embarrassment of failing, and just he he has too much ambition, and that ambition ended up swallowing him whole, like the darkness in him, you know. I mean, and even once again, him and the director had that conversation about, right, this thing brought out the worst in us, you know, brought out our darker selves, or maybe it's just, maybe it didn't like just make made some dark choices for us. We made some dark choices in this situation. Maybe it just brought forth who we've always been. So, but him willing to go as, I mean, and was I surprised he went after Elena's daughter? Of course not. Because I figured he would probably know where Elena's daughter was, just because it's like, right, the people that the director sent there is like, he has command over them too, so all he has to be like, okay, so who is sitting on this spot? Because I'm sure Val never told him, and neither did director Royale, like, never told him exactly where Elena's daughter is, so he went through his own channels to do it. So, but by the time they show up there, it's like, no, they saw through you, so they ended up escaping, and he was just seconds behind him, and that kind of blew up in his face like that. So, but it wasn't just his face it blew up in. It also, the entire thing did blow up in Natalia's face too, because she has to admit this is a well orchestrated plan to go to the lengths that she's going to, because Natalia, she talked about how, like, she was really impressed with Elena, but it's like, right, like, she still managed to underestimate her, because she didn't account for the whole prison situation of Owen and Sergei, because she probably was under the impression Sergei did die some months ago. So Val, Anthony, and the director quickly figuring out about the gold situation being made into buttons. They've been doing this back and forth for a while. Elena planned everything out so that the plan would be, we'll strike when the last shipment to go, because that way we follow it to the source. Because if we go too soon, I mean, we have to wait for it all to be in one place to kind of do our thing. But I mean, at the end, it's not like Elena took all of it. She took like one truck of the gold, which had like a good chunk of it. The rest were in those trucks, plus it led to some containers where they had the rest stored, because they had made multiple trips, because God knows how long, maybe ever since Andrew became president, that they've been doing this back and forth. Like, maybe, like, so it might have been a little over a couple years, because it took them, like, in the time frame Owen and Sergei were in the prison, I don't know how many shipments got sent out in that time frame. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, how long have they been turning the gold into buttons and stuff? What I thought was such a fascinating twist is when we found out that Owen was CIA. I didn't expect it, because I was like, oh man, he works for the Bellocks or something like that. I think they kind of intentionally make you think that maybe someone else saw the CIA situation coming, and like, I didn't. But I guess it makes sense in retrospect, him going after Elena the way he did. It's like, right, like, on such an international level, it was like, that seemed like it'd be a CIA move. So, and it turns out Elena and Sergei knew the entire time that he was CIA. It's like, oh, the moment you walked in that restaurant, we already knew, and we were going to kill you, but then, like, you told stories about your wife, and it's like, right. And Sergei actually does seem like he was hurt the moment he found out, like, when he confronts Owen, and because he was like, I thought you heard our story, and that's what pisses him off, because it's like, right, we knew you were CIA, we let you live because we thought, despite our circumstances of, yeah, we kind of got brought together in complicated circumstances, but I believed that you were kind of a friend. I thought that you believed in this mission, that this was for the greater good. And that's the interesting thing, because everyone has their perception of what is the greater good. And sometimes that greater good, you know, because even Elena's greater good comes with the stipulation of, yeah, but let's make a profit off of this too. So there's that. And Owen's greater good is like, no, look, it kind of is similar to Val's greater good of, right, we need to take you down. Regardless of the good you've kind of done, you're still a criminal and you need to be taken down. Because the CIA is aware of Snow White and Elena's plans, but they'd only recently become aware of the Bellocks, so... I even skipped over it, but I do like that conversation where Val confronts Elena, like, over the phone, where it's like, you lied to me. She's like, I lied to you about the one thing, and for that, I'm sorry. But it's like, yeah, like, this whole, I brought up before, like, the whole conversation of it's BS, friendship, and let's work together, that this is about taking down corruption. It's like, no, this is purely about your revenge, and you kind of don't have, it's like, bringing down some very bad people was a byproduct, because it's like, you weren't doing it for the best of intentions. Like, no, I'm getting revenge, and I'm also getting paid. So you can't, there's always there's an asterisk beside the statement of like, oh, we're trying to do good, because for her this was justice. So once again, just showing how Elena still pulled Val in certain directions, because she gave Val the heads up, like, oh, you need to protect someone. You need to figure out the location. If you do, you'll know who you end up protecting. So you're like, the entire time I'm like, it's got to be Owen she's referencing. But for Sergei to, like, that means they knew the entire time. So I guess they never had any plans to kill Owen, but I guess they were hoping like Val would get there in time, but then surround them. I guess that was the plan. It's like, right, I kind of led you into a trap where me and Sergei could end up getting away. Like, maybe he never had any intention to kill Owen. Well, if need be. Because even Elena's like, right, I'd rather not kill you, so walk away. Like, the fact is, we've taken out some very bad people. We've got our money. Just let us walk away. Like, do you really want to pull on this thread? Because that could be a whole issue. Because legitimately, Elena's like, if it was another world, we could have been friends. But sadly, we live in this world. Which I think is interesting, because I think the same thing could be said about her and Natalia. Like, they were friends at one point in time until you found out the truth about who she was. So it's almost interesting how history's almost repeated itself in that regard. I mean, because Val, you can tell, just feels bad because, like, she's been used and manipulated on all fronts. She's glad to see Owen's alive and knowing, like, oh my God, he's not the bad guy he was, but to know he lied to her. Regardless of the circumstances, we're husband and wife. We both, like, if you would let me in on it, he's like, I couldn't take a chance. It's like, and you think Val wouldn't have been able to keep that secret? And because of the hardship he put her through, the fact is, like, she was the one that was necessary, because he manipulated her. He knew that if Val saw him do something bad with the money, that she would report, because he knows that she's a good agent. But the scrutiny, the eyes, especially the, like, BS that Doak put her through, that was on you. Like, the literal career suicide that happened because of you, like, all the hardships you put her through, and the fact that she was still ride or die, she was still by your side. And then you had the nerve to serve her divorce papers, because for him it's like, right, I had to see whether or not you wanted an out to this thing. It's like, no, we were supposed to be in this together, especially because it cuts so deep, because once again, it's not like they're just recently married. Like, Owen and Val have been in each other's lives since they were kids. All that he's the one that talked her off the ledge of when she tried to go after the guy that murdered her mom. And it's like, you couldn't come to me for it. It's like, she doesn't know she can forgive him, because he's like, right, we can start over. But it's like, you're not the person I thought you were. Like, I don't know who you are. Like, I get it. It's the ends justify the means. Because even the director was like, Owen, it's not me who you have to try and convince. It's Val. And Val's not. So we'll see where things go for them going forward. It's like, that's kind of a rocky situation. And then you have the Doak situation, which I thought was so fascinating, continuing down that route, where the president was like, right, it's for the greater good, blah, blah, blah. Because I guess in his mind, he justifies it like, right, I'm serving the Bellocks. It's like, I am empowering one of the largest criminal organizations, and I'm giving them and making them the most powerful group in the world, because now they had the president as their puppet. The fact is that he tells Doak, like, right, I want you to take this. I thought what was going to happen is it was going to be, let's swap that flash drive for this one. And when he got there, the director had given orders so that Doak couldn't see the video himself. And the director was like, your ambition got you here. You don't need to do this. Like, what are you trying to do? He's like, I'm trying to serve this country. And the director was like, right, at the end of the day, we're just trying to do what's right. We're trying to take down some bad guys. Like, basically just follow the evidence. Because he was even telling Doak, like, right, follow the evidence and see where it goes, because it's like, right, did you know that... I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. It wasn't just the mine. There was something else that was tied to the president, because it was like a shell corporation. Oh yeah, the prison. The prison where the gold was being melted down into the buttons. The president owned it through a shell corporation. So it's like, right, just follow the evidence. And even with that talk, what does Doak do? He still takes it. And so luckily they found the drive where that could have wiped out all of their servers. So good thing, like, that agent is really good at her job, and she's found it before anything. So they still probably have like the raw data on their files, but they're probably going to pretend like, oh, it got wiped or something like that. I don't know. But Doak ends up having the actual drive, and Anthony was looking at him the entire time. I'm like, okay, Anthony's been pulled in. And so Doak is like contemplating on whether or not what to do. I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? Are you going to try and do the right thing? And he puts it in his pocket. I'm like, okay, maybe there is some redemption for you. But then Rogelio hits you with the hard truth of like, he's going to try and blackmail the president. I was like, oh, you garbage piece of shit. Oh, you idiot. It's like, once again, it's like, you know he's a bad guy, but maybe his justification in his mind is like, right, we can't take down the president. We need, because it will bring down the entire foundation of this country to have such corruption at such a high level, so we can't do that. But I sure as hell can blackmail him and take advantage of it. I'm like, God, you suck so much. And so Rogelio's like, right, this actually works out in our favor. We couldn't ask for a better opportunity. So we're keeping this between us, Anthony. Do not tell anyone, especially Val. So I guess this is going to be their way to gather, if they can have someone on the inside like that, it's going to make it a little bit easier to like swoop in and potentially take down the president. I guess it's kind of like having someone on the inside and maybe end up blackmailing Doak. I'm like, oh, we know what choice you made, so now you're gonna have to work with us, or we're gonna basically prosecute you and you're gonna lose everything. Like, I don't know if that was the end result, but man, I was like, you had an opportunity to do the right thing. I almost had a glimmer of hope, like, oh, you're gonna do the right thing, but it's like, nope. Because Rogelio sees through you. He's like, no, he's going to go blackmail the president. You're like, oh, God. Which is stupid, because that's going to get you killed. But I'm sure he's going to think he's so smart. It's like, oh, I'm going to have contingency plans. It's like, yeah, you go at this alone and see how that helps. Because even the president is just a pawn. Because Natalia puts him in his place. It's like, yo, I'm not going to kill you. You prove useful, but you got to make this right. Because for her, it's like all the gold they would have gotten for the Federal Reserve, it would have made them the most powerful organization. And now Elena, not only did all that gold get taken by the CIA, like I'm sure it's back, well, most of it, there's still the bits that Elena took. I'm sure Natalia's probably thinking like, no, given the opportunity, I can eventually get it all back. But it's like, yeah, that woman took everything from me, so... Just when I was scared the entire time, I was like, oh my God, the fact is that Elena was with her daughter and Sergei, they're not going to have the happily ever after. Because I was like, it's going to be the story come full circle, because it's like, right, the car her and her dad were in was attacked. I was like, it's going to happen again here. And it kind of did. It didn't happen the same way, but it's like, right, how did Natalia know where Elena was going? It's like, well, because I think Natalia... she got blindsided by Elena, but I think she's just as smart as Elena is, so she probably knew, like, right, there's probably only so many places you could go to try and make your escape. So she does have the president underneath her palm, so she has the resources and the organization to, like, make that a possibility of, like, gathering that info. So, because, like, no one else, it's not like she got that from the FBI or anything like that, because none of them knew where Elena ended up going. So... And I love that her thing is like, right, I got to make your mom pay, which is so sad, because it's like, right, she's there. And she's like, oh my God, look, you've grown so much, because Natalia did look after Sophia for a little bit, and which makes the whole thing that much more messed up. And it's also like, right, I got to pay her back. She killed my sister, my dad. I'm like, are we not going to acknowledge the fact that she was defending herself? Your family was going to, your sister and your father were going to kill her. Like, what was she supposed to do? Lay down and die? And it's like, I get it when it comes to revenge. There is no like, oh, because I mean, I think it's almost paralleled with Elena's revenge to some extent, because the guy who actually planted the bomb, they still killed him regardless of what his circumstances were. One of the people, the guy didn't know what was what, but he still ended up helping Elena. I'm blanking on the guy's name now. The one who ended up working with them. The only reason why Elena and Sergei changed her mind about killing him was because she was pregnant at the time, so she wanted to handle things a little bit differently. So that, if she wasn't pregnant, probably would have played out differently, but that would have been one less resource that they had at their disposal to make all this possible. So, but like, that's why I'm like, it's almost, because we still don't know what that was all about. It's still, once again, it's got to be like a bad blood family feud type of situation, because like, to go after Elena like that, you killed her dad, you're trying to kill her, so she was just surviving. Like, you would do the same thing. All you've done has been for the sake of survival and amassing power, I guess, to maybe make your father, you're doing it probably all in the honor of your father and your sister and just the organization as a whole. But that's why I'm like, can you not? Once again, revenge is going to blind you, so it's not going to be the most rational. It doesn't matter what your family was doing, and it doesn't matter if it was in self-defense. Elena still killed your family, so you're not going to forgive her. So taking her daughter, potentially killing Sergei. I don't think Sergei's dead. He could be, but we saw him kind of like, almost like snapping out of it while he was in the truck before it exploded. So I'm assuming he got out in time. At the same time this is all going down, Val is looking back on everything, all the conversations she had with Elena, and Elena's conversations about opening your eyes and like what side you're basically going to end up choosing. If I laid everything out in front of you, you wouldn't believe me. And I think in the point, it's like, right, finding out that the president was corrupt, all these high officials were corrupt, that at the top of this, there's a criminal organization, this large-scale conspiracy, the gold being melted down into the buttons, Owen's a CIA agent, all of it. The truth had to be broken down little by little for you to accept it. But it also, this adventure, like this whole situation armed her with the necessary, know-how. Like, it put her in a position to grow and become who I think she's going to need to be for the future. And so she goes and pulls on a thread. It's like Elena, once again, riddles upon riddles. And I guess it was just a contingency plan, but it probably wasn't just a contingency plan. It's like, if you want to just let this go, let this go. But if you are willing to keep going down, deeper down the rabbit hole, then, because I'm making another, like, reference in that regard, but it's like, I thought about this at the beginning of the episode. I should have brought it up then, but it's in my mind now. It's like, yeah, the whole Snow White thing is very interesting, considering she was very much like Snow White in the casket at the beginning of the episode. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about that parallel. I thought about the parallel at the time, but I didn't remember it until just now, until I made like the Alice in Wonderland comparison. She's not a princess. Kingdom Hearts is going to forever screw that up in my head, because she's one of the 7 princesses of light in that, but she's not a actual princess in the Disney canon. Regardless. But deeper down the rabbit hole is kind of the point I'm trying to make, was the metaphor I was going for. And ends up revealing a map because Elena referenced that the flash drive about Andrew might not be the only one that is like, right, I might have stolen multiple, 1, 10, maybe 50. So now Val has access to the place where a lot of those drives are. So does that mean Natalia doesn't know how many were stolen? I mean, to be fair, she has so many people under her thumb. It's probably hundreds and hundreds, maybe even more. So if she noticed one going missing. To be fair, it's a pretty important one. It's probably the most important one amongst them is President Wright's blackmail. That's probably the most important one, but for all we know, there might be others just as important, if not more important. They have to wait and see, but Elena calling her at the end, going their separate ways, but it's like, no, I need your help. It's like, right, we just went through what we went through. You manipulated me and you think I'm going to help you. It's like, but at the end of the day, her daughter's caught up in the crosshair. So no matter what, these two, I was curious to see how this was going to play out, because I thought, like, right, Elena's going to be out there free, but Val still was going to go after her. I was like, but as an FBI agent, because, maybe that's just my notion, like, domestic stuff is like FBI. CIA is the international stuff. So that's why I was like, would she even be able to do much as an FBI agent with everything going on? But with having Elena's network of Snow White, these unlikely enemies have to work together. But I was curious to see like how it would, because I was thinking like, right, would they really? I mean, it's almost once again you can't help but make the Blacklist comparison. To some extent, Liz kind of had that plan. She wanted to be on the run with Agnes and stuff like that. Obviously, sadly, things didn't work out in that regard. Things didn't work out in this regard. But I thought maybe they'd be out internationals. Like, oh, they were going to go all these different places. I mean, Natalia was still going to be a threat. But I guess it's like, right, we dealt enough of a blow to her right now. So this part ends here. But eventually, we're going to kick up the next part of our plan. It's like, right, how far in advance did Elena plan things out? Like, what has she already, did they already fully plan out part 2, or was, because it's like, did you really think you're just going to be able to disappear at the end of this? That I guess they thought they would have enough of a head start that they could get away from Natalia and then take time to recuperate, lay low long enough to be a family fully again for the first time in a long time, and then strike again. Like I said, it just depends on how much of the next part of their plan they had, because they weren't going to stop until the Bellocks fully paid, because there's still one more person at the top responsible. Plus, Andrew still needs to get taken down as well. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see where things could potentially go on that front with the whole, like I said, if Sergei's alive, if Val and Elena would work together or not. At the time of me recording this, the Endgame has not been canceled, nor has it been renewed, so it's in that in-between spot. With stuff like this, I always like, when networks wait like this, it always makes me go, it always feels like it's a flip of the coin whether or not something at this, because I feel like usually if they've reached a decision before a finale. Someone had recently said that the show hasn't gotten really good reviews or something like that. I think that doesn't always apply. It just comes down to viewership, how many people are watching it. I'm sure that plays the most important role in it, which I don't know what the viewership is like, whether, but I really do, fingers crossed, hoping this show gets a second season, because I'd love to see where things would go. A season 2, I'd be curious to see would it be as tightly packed as this one, because this show is basically I think based on what Val was saying, like when she was talking to Owen, like 10 days ago, I would have said, I'm like, oh, so has it not even been a full 2 weeks yet over the course of this series? Maybe everything present day. That'd be interesting if that's the case, that it's all been told over such a short amount of time. Feels like that, especially with the show being only, this season being like not even 13 episodes, 10 episodes only. So I think it'd be interesting, like, to know if structurally, if season 2 would be like that, or would it be a little bit longer, so that they can, like, so it might not be as like tight. I mean, because the tightness of the show, God, that's what he said or she said. I couldn't help, the innuendo was there in my head. Sorry. My brain works the way it does sometimes. It kind of knocks me off kilter. How tightly laid everything is. I mean, it not only just storytelling wise, I think, with just how it was structured, fits perfectly with just the nature of, this was a very well crafted, well planned out thing on Elena's part. So it's almost like the show reflected that. So I'm curious if, almost could you stretch it out a little bit longer if in a potential season 2, just because Elena was kind of caught off guard. Once again, she has contingency upon contingency, but there's still, once again, things that you can't 100% expect or plan for. So we'll see, because I think Elena and Val working together could be the deciding factor, because Elena got this far because she had Val's help, but it's also because, like, right, I paved the road for you to get here, because I believed you would rise to the occasion, so I set forth this path where I knew you would follow it through and come out on top. But now they might be standing more so as equal, and that duo fully in sync, working together for the greater good, that might be the deciding factor in taking down Natalia and the Bellocks and just this entire thing. So, like I said, fingers crossed, hoping the show gets a second season. So, and obviously not just a second season, but a whole continuous run to go as long as creators and showrunners decide to continue the show, so. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.